you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guidebooks and you make wonderful plans.
The Colosseum, the Michelangelo David, the gondolas in Venice. You may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very, very exciting.
After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. Several hours later, the plane lands. The stewardess comes in and says, "Welcome to Holland."
Holland, you say? What do you mean, Holland? I sign up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All my life I've dreamed of going to Italy.
But there's been a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland and there you must stay. The important thing is that they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place full of pestilence, famine and disease. It's just a different place.
So you must go out and buy new guidebooks, and you must learn a whole new language, and you will meet a whole new group of people you would never have met. It's just a different place. It's slower paced than Italy, less flashy than Italy, but after you've been there for a while, you catch your breath and look around.
And you begin to notice that Holland has windmills.
Holland has tulips.
Holland even has Rembrandts.
But everyone you know is busy coming and going from Italy, and they're all bragging about what a wonderful time they had there.
And for the rest of your life, you will say, "Yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I had planned."
And the pain of that will never, ever, ever go away.
Because the loss of that dream is a very, very significant loss.
But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't get to Italy,
you may never be free to enjoy the very special,
the very lovely things about Holland.
Mills is 11 years old and she can move, but she can't walk alone. She can't really spend long on her feet. She can get around and she can't talk in any words that you would recognise, but she can communicate.
Probably like the worst thing is just like not being able to, I don't know, I think it's like, it's not to do with her, but like when other people can't fully understand what's wrong with her, and their immediate response will either be like, "Oh, she's got a disabled sister, that's so sweet," or it will be the opposite, it'll be like, "Ew, like don't, disabled people scare me, blah blah blah."
The school 3 years has been fantastic. You know, I take her for regular dental checkups. It's been brilliant. You know, the physios at school and the RUH on her sort of footwear and so on. So generally, I mean, all the services, you know, the provision of the holiday clubs and that sort of thing. I think a Saturday club, it's all been amazing, really, I think. You know, because I think without a lot of that support stuff, you'd really struggle.
It is amazing. I remember reading that lovely metaphoric story a long time ago. Somebody gave it to me when Millie was little, as they do, you know, they say all these kind of things that try and help you, and you're actually still reeling and feeling as though you've just been knocked down by an articulated lorry. And I think I did for a long time, a lot of years. I didn't understand a lot of what, or I didn't feel to be a reality, a lot of what was written down there. And I just felt it was a huge problem and it was going to like affect our family only negatively. I really believed that I couldn't see anything else. And it's amazing. I think it's taken me a lot longer than a lot of people I know with special needs children to discover the joys of Holland and to discover, or to really just identify how different Millie makes all our family in such a good way.
Because sometimes I'm watching television and she pulls my hair and it really, really hurts. So I want her to stop doing that, and she can sometimes be really, really loud and it hurts my ears.
I think the worst time for us was around the early days of the diagnosis, and it was the kind of more clinical, medical end of things. The specialists, the consultants, the people with the letters after their names, had just been so cagey and didn't ever want to diagnose, or there was just something a bit dehumanising about that whole process of being told that your child is very different in this and this way. It's such a hard thing to take on, but certainly the way it was dealt with by the medical profession was hard. So it'd be nice to have some kind of, I don't know, person in the middle with a bedside manner and a bit more of a kind of counselling style rather than the pure medical facts to support families through that.
I think it's just kind of this really like innocent happiness, because I mean it's quite hard because Millie's really oblivious of the world, obviously, and at times that can be really hard as a family to deal with that. You know, she doesn't know what we're going through, and you know, if there's times in the night when she's crying and she can't tell us what she wants or whatever. Yeah. But I think when she's happy, you know it's the best kind of happy, because you can just see it. She just glows because she's so like pretty and she's always smiling.
Yeah. So infectious, and I mean, when people kind of come in and they see Millie, you know, the first moment when they kind of feel comfortable is when she starts smiling and laughing, and it kind of relaxes people, and it has this amazing effect on everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're not given much of a roadmap with a child with severe special needs, so you never really know what you dare hope for. You never dare hope if they will hit any of the significant milestones that any child should hit. So I suppose we've always worked on the basis that we just hope that she is as emotionally happy and emotionally fulfilled as she possibly can be, and we just think starting from there, that point, as long as she is as good as she possibly can be in herself, then the other things will hopefully come or won't matter quite so much.
I mean, I think one of the nice things for Millie, she's always very happy. So, you know, just hope that she'll remain very happy, that she'll be able to communicate a little bit better. So we know, for example, when things are hurting her, because at the moment it's quite difficult to tell exactly what she wants, or if something's wrong or she's unhappy about something.
Sometimes I feel a bit left out when my mum and dad are spending time with Millie, Innie and Kate, but I don't mind because I know they have to look after them because I'm not the only person in that house.
And if she was just a normal 10-year-old girl, she would be so different, but in a way, like, it's amazing how she is. Like, it's just opened everyone's eyes so much.
Yeah.
And just being around Millie gives us all something so special in so many ways, in such a kind of hard to describe and hard to measure way, whether it's a tolerance and acceptance and understanding, a heart for the marginalised or the, you know, the weaker people in any class or whatever who need that bit of getting alongside. It just kind of gives you that that special bond that I could never see as a good thing, and now I genuinely just wouldn't want it to be any other way. I just, you know, consider us to be blessed and fortunate to have the privilege. Sounds so corny, but really to have Millie, because she gives us so much.
I mean, I guess the ultimate worry is, you know, when we're gone, who will look after her, really?
She was very a textbook baby, very average baby did everything when she's supposed to do it. Not sick, not ill, and a bit quirky, but just thought that was her personality. And then at 7, she got full-blown chickenpox, horrendous chickenpox, which left her with ME. And while we were getting diagnosis for ME, it turned out we met a geneticist out of the hospital and had some testing, and they came up with the fact that they might thought there was a genetic condition called Noonan syndrome. Turns out it's not Noonan syndrome, but it is an unnamed genetic condition which has mild to moderate learning difficulties and skeletal muscular problems. So our life changed we went from a healthy child who could remember being well, I could count on one hand how many times she'd been sick, to a child that couldn't stay awake, so she had ME and a learning problem. So it changed I was going to teach the children at home, and I couldn't do that because she took up so much of our time. Our son, who's 5, was from that moment onwards her carer because she couldn't get up off the floor. She couldn't sometimes get in and out of bed. Once she's kind of recovered from the ME, the learning difficulty was masked by the ME. So they kept saying, but they wouldn't give her a statement because they were saying ME can cause memory loss and tiredness and lack of concentration. So they kept saying there wasn't anything wrong with her, even though we'd had a genetics test saying there was quite a likelihood of her having something wrong with her. So once she's recovered sufficiently from the ME, they then began to realise we weren't making it up, and there was something definitely different to her peers. And it all fell apart when she tried to go to mainstream school, and she would spend a whole lesson trying to find out what classroom she was in at Hayesfield. She'd spend the whole lesson trying to find out, get the right colour out of her pencil case. So I tried teaching her at home again, and that didn't work because she needs so much attention. So that was hard for me because I had to acknowledge that my children were going to have to go to school. And but as it turns out, it's the best thing because she loves school. She's gone to 3 ways. I got a statement. I did have to fight had to go to appeal and fight for the statement, but she went into 3 ways, and it's the best thing that's happened. And through that I can educate my son at home, and we've got a relationship that we wouldn't have. I don't even know actually if we would still be together as a family because it would be so stressful. I don't even know. We wouldn't be married. I don't know. We possibly wouldn't be together.
Because she's had ME since she was 7, and it's been me and my mum looking after her. And my dad has got seeing disability, but he hasn't had ME, so it's just as hard for him. We have to kind of speak in a different language, so no jokes or sarcasm, which is very hard because I absolutely love sarcasm. So my sister comes in about 3:30 usually, and something's always happened at school or something. Then my dad comes home later, then it's even worse because there's 2 of them. So basically from 9 o'clock to 3 it's our evening basically, which is quite nice.
People don't know that there's organisations out there to help you until you're at your worst. I didn't know parent partnership existed. If I'd known parent partnership existed, I would have gone to them at the start of the process. So I wouldn't have got to this point because I would have already known what to say or how to say or what my rights were. It was at this point that it was impossible and probable scenario. But if I'd known that at the beginning, I would have known that I could challenge it all the way. You just need the backing of someone else to say, on the meetings that I went to at the school, the parent partnership came with me and said, this is what Mrs. Smith is saying. It's like having a lawyer with you. This is what she wants, this is what needs to be done. Rather than we go around the houses and justify our existence, they cut to the chase. But if I'd had that at the beginning, it would have given me 6 months less grief. Her life has completely done her 180 or 360, whatever, because she's now doing everything that she dreamed of, and has been offered a job and a college place, and has got a dog, and is a totally different person that she wouldn't have been if she was in mainstream. We wouldn't have this family life if she was in mainstream, guarantee. Our hopes are that she's happy. That's all it's about. Because if you're happy and confident to believe in herself, that you can do anything that you put your mind to, and she's fulfilling that. She's been offered an apprenticeship at 16, which doesn't happen. She's doing the things that we wouldn't have even considered hoping for. We hoped that she would leave school without any incidents, without someone taking advantage of her. And as it happens, we've probably got a child that's possibly more equipped than me and my husband were leaving school.
Charlie is severely autistic, and it is a massive spectrum, and it was one that I didn't really realise existed before, you know, I had Charlie. And if you told me that I was going to have a son who was, when he was nearly 10 years old, still couldn't talk, I would have been really surprised. Because, you know, that I didn't associate that with autism. I knew it was something, you know, it was a communication disorder, and that, you know, when I'd seen autistic children or even autistic adults speak, there was definitely a manner in which they were speaking that was different, and that they didn't do conversations very well, and they may not say much, or they may repeat what you're saying, or just, you know, talk about things that interested them. But to not actually speak a word is definitely not something that you would ever expect, and it's something that's really difficult to come to terms with. And, you know, we're still hoping, because I do know of children who have been older than Charlie when they've first spoken. And, you know, you just hope that there's something there, because to not be able to speak, it's a very difficult thing to describe to other parents. And I've actually had a woman tell me that I shouldn't take my child out in public, and, you know, that's really difficult in those kind of situations. And, you know, you may have a hard skin at the time, but you still come home and cry, because, you know, and it's just the way some people look at you. They don't have to say anything, but you kind of catch people's eyes when you're sitting there having a picnic or something. I think with autism, there's lots of different attitudes to it. It's getting better because people are understanding more, but actually in many ways it would be useful if people just threw away every idea that they had about autism, or their preconceived ideas, and just, you know, took each child as they come, because they are all so different. And you may have expectations, actually they're probably quite likely not to match, and all of that affection to people, which is great, really. And I get a lot of that, so I feel really privileged. There's no hiding behind anything with Charlie. He will, you know, he'll come and hug me, and sometimes kind of kiss me as well, and, you know, that's just really, really lovely. The future is the scariest thing, really, and it's something that we try not to think about too much, because actually nobody knows how children like Charlie will develop. Everybody will have their theories. The, you know, professionals and doctors and everything will usually give you the worst case scenario. But you don't actually know. You don't actually know how it will turn out, and that's probably the best way to be, is just do what you can. You know, you don't know what's going to happen, so you might as well, you know, just live in the moment that you're in, and be very thankful for all the good things that happen on a day-to-day basis.
Christian has a genetic condition which is called Fragile X. So to look at him, he's a healthy and I think very handsome boy, and so nobody, just look at him, nobody will think, oh, there's something wrong with that child. But the moment he opens his mouth, it is quite clear. His learning is very delayed, and his intellectual ability is not academically great. I think he's a clever boy anyhow, because he makes connections that are quite special, I think. He always remembers things, and he makes some he remembers roads, he makes some logical connections, and it's funny the way the brain works, because he couldn't add 2 + 2 even if he's 13 now. He's also hyperactive, which is again a consequence of Fragile X, and now he's coming down and plays a lot of football as a consequence. When he was a child, when he was younger, it could have been a bit challenging, especially before, when he was just a baby and he couldn't walk. It was a nightmare, because he wanted to be on the move all the time and he couldn't be, so I had to carry him everywhere. And if things are not if things don't follow a plan that he knows, and something unexpected happens, ooh, that's trouble. And we have temper tantrum, shouting, or anything.
He likes to try and be normal. He likes to get involved. He tries his best to just be himself, but still try to not embarrass himself.
The diagnosis came and had two results. One positive, which is, oh, now I know what it is, and one negative, which is, oh gosh, there's no hope. Because you're always in denial. You always say, oh, he doesn't speak because he's lazy, oh, he behaves like that because he's got a bad temper. And then you're just like, okay, now I know, and nothing we can do. Yes, early diagnosis is fundamental. It's so important. One, to know what services are needed for the child. Speech therapy, immediately for Christian. When did he get it? When he was 4. It was a bit late, wasn't it? 4. If you know, and for understanding the child. Now that I know that Christian's got fragile legs and that I know what happens with children with fragile legs. I know how to handle it.
It's not always we get along, but he likes when we're doing stuff that we both like, and I just have to cope with stuff he does like and I don't like. I don't worry about stuff that's going to happen in the future. I just worry about stuff that's happening now.
Christian always loved Jonathan from the first day they saw him. I remember he came to the hospital and Jonathan was in this little push thing and he took Jonathan, he pushed him away from me and he said, "Okay, bye-bye, Mummy," as to say, "Now I've got my brother, I'm okay." And so there was always, maybe luckily, there was never jealousy, so there's always been a lot of love between the two. I think Christian is great in the way he is, in his personality. I think he's very blessed with a lovely personality. Ah, gosh, I wish he didn't have a disability. I know some people say, "Oh, I would never change him." I would change him if they gave me a pill and this takes it away, I'll give it to him. The positive probably is that makes you really empathize with people more and and really understand suffering. And two, makes you paradoxically happier because you really understand what you need to worry about in life rather than worrying about things that possibly are not really that important, and you really appreciate for instance, I really appreciate health and the fact that despite his problems, Christian is actually a very healthy boy. I hope that he'll be able to live as much an independent life as possible because he's an independent person. He wants to do things on his own and he's got a very strong sense of himself, so he wants to show what he has done, to do his thing. So I would love him to, when he grows, I love him to continue with schooling and maybe develop. Obviously, intellectually, he's not very academic, but so I don't expect him to have a degree in maths. But I expect him maybe to learn a trade or a job or something. Gardening, is fond of going out in the garden, and or I don't know, something that he could do that will give him a sense of self and independence and satisfaction for what he does. Yes, I think I can do it.
For me, it wasn't so much as I knew there was something not right outside, not what it was. And the main struggle for me at the beginning was for people to listen that there is something not right outside. Frame syndrome is, it causes a global development. Said walked a lot later than he did. Like he started walking about at the age of just after 3. His feeding, his level of understanding. Sometimes he can't be. He can come across. He's very chatty, very happy, but he can come across that fully well understanding or comprehending the language or what you're saying to him clearly. But he's 7 and his level of understanding is the age of 5. So he understands and does things slightly later than
your ordinary child. But from the moment that Said was referred to the RUH hospital, they referred Said to so many different kind of professionals, and the genetic consultants came way later after so many other tests. The misdiagnosis of the cerebral palsy, which is how at first Said looked, and the symptoms it was showing. I didn't think Said was going to be able to eat properly, because it's only just when it's gone past, every year goes past, it's like he's walking. I completely dismissed the fact that there might not be a chance and didn't want to believe in that, and just carried on helping Said the best I could. And a week prior to his 3rd birthday, that's when it started sinking in, and I started actually thinking, hang on, they might be right, there might be a chance he might not walk. And a day after his 3rd birthday, Said took his first steps. So from that onwards, I thought, I'm not going to go back into that place again and think that he might not do this. I'm glad Said's very determined. He has there's this very determined character he is, and I'm sure if that's what got him to where he's at today. His speech has improved, and the way he's talking, the way he was very cautious because his balance was not right, but now you have to restrain him from climbing places. And but it's just more the difference is that I didn't feel that I so much had to fight to get the diagnosis. It was more the gap of the time, not knowing whether there's something wrong, but not knowing whether there is, and thinking that the longer it takes, maybe it might be something that needs to be caught early, that needs to be found out early. Maybe this time that it's taken, it might be the time that they're losing on treating Said. Which I'm very confident he will, if he keeps up the way he is. I think he's gonna prove all the things that were thought of that he might not be able to do quite wrong, and will do it. Because in the space of 2 years, he's done so much what he should have done in the first 5 years of his life. So I can quite easily see him making up for the next 2 years quite quickly. Me, on the other hand, I've got a challenge in my hand, but it's one I can't wait to take, because it's one I didn't imagine that I would be able to have when I see toddlers running around and challenging their parents. And so I almost used to feel bad for feeling then jealous that he's doing this, and now he's takes on in the middle of playing and taking activities that 9-year-olds are partaking. It's just how confident he is. It's a bit scary again, because he has no sense of danger and he has a very massive threshold for pain.
We always thought there's probably something wrong with Georgia, but everybody just put it down to like a slight delay. But as the years went on, we realised that she was quite a bit behind the other children. And when she got to between 4 and 5, we took her to a geneticist who felt that she probably did have Williams syndrome. And then after a blood test, she was diagnosed with Williams syndrome, which is a fairly rare genetic disorder which affects her physically and mentally. She's a very happy and loving child and very, very friendly, but she is behind her friends and her peers.
We go for walks together, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, and at the food we used to take our cameras to like, yeah.
Do you know about ice skating?
And we go ice skating as well, don't we?
Yeah, I love ice skating. Me and Mummy went it 100 times, and Daddy didn't even have a go on it.
And it's very isolating as well, you know, because, you know, I didn't want my friends and family to know, even though, you know, I'd found what I thought Georgie had. I wanted to keep it to myself, and that can be really isolating. But what I've learnt now is it's not a weakness to ask for help, and that's probably where I started to pick up that I sort of found my strength in asking around and asking people to help, and with that I sort of became used to what she had in it and came more to terms with it. Don't think I'll ever come to terms with it completely, but I found it easier, whereas before I wanted to keep it to myself and only I wanted to cope with it, and I didn't want anybody else to know what she had.
Well, she's very friendly and she's kind and caring and very loving. Like, she's very good at taking care of people when they're ill, and she's very funny as well. She cheers you up when you're down.
And sometimes Sarah will get embarrassed if people come up and say in shops, you know, is your daughter disabled? Does she want to sit down? Do you want to go in front of the queue? And whereas I think, yeah, let's get to the front of the queue.
I worry about her quite a lot. I mean, like, I'm constantly checking behind my back to see if she's still there. And like, if I'm swimming with my friends, I'd take Georgia, she wanted to go. And I'm constantly looking over to the other side of the pool, or wherever she is, to see whether she's all right or not. I'd usually invite one of her friends to come along as well, but it's just sort of the case of, is she all right, and is she still there?
Well, she's always been to Haysford, which is a mainstream school, which she's always loved. I think she's always been an important part of the school. I think she has been a bit nurtured and a bit looked after, but I think in return it's done the other girls good to have a disabled child there as well. You know, it reminds them that there are others that need to be looked after, and not everybody is the same. You know, there are lots of disabilities around. I think she'll be sad when she leaves. She's all ready to go to the prom. She's got a dress and everything. I think she'll probably go on then to three-way sixth form, which she's not sure about, but you know, all her friends are leaving as well. So, and she has struggled at mainstream. It has been difficult for her, but it's also done her good as well. It's a slice of real life, and you know, that's the world she's going to be going out and facing with a few dangers. And so I'm glad she went in a way. But I do think she's also brought something to the other children. You know, that it did them good to have her amongst them. That, you know, they looked after her, but you know, I think that sort of taught them a good lesson as well about caring and everything. Children are all different, aren't they? And you know, all disabilities are different, and some of them are hidden and some of them aren't. You know, Georgie's is an obvious disability, but I think it's a good reminder to children that, you know, some disabilities are hidden, and but they're all around, you know, and they all needs to be inclusive, and it's all part of learning. I don't think Georgie, if she hadn't been surrounded by the girls that helped her, really, she's learnt from them.
My mum was always there for me. I get worried about having injections, and she takes me straight. She's with me when I go to the doctor, and she loves me very much. she's just a lovely sister, and she keeps an eye on me. And then sometimes if I get lost, she worries about me.
It's hard to imagine Georgie without her disability, because really what she's got sort of makes her. And I could quite often look at sort of other families and think, oh, I wonder what Georgie would have been like as a 15, 16-year-old without the syndrome. But really the Williams syndrome makes Georgie, because it makes that friendly personality and the caring and the laughing and the person who she is. I was once asked if I had a magic wand whether I would wave it over Georgie and to take away her disability, and I could honestly say I don't think I could, because what Georgie's got makes her, and so to take that disability away from her would almost be to take Georgie away, really. And I think probably Sarah feels the same, that she's grown up with Georgie and she is unique in her own way. Although she has a lot of difficulties, she still is Sarah's older sister and is a lot more confident than Sarah and a lot more friendly. And I think Sarah sees that she still probably will always be a grown-up sister, but there's some things that she just will need that little bit more help with. So they have quite a complex relationship, really. At times Sarah's got to really look after her, but at other times Georgie looks after Sarah.
Probably going to be there for her for the rest of my life. I mean, I wouldn't want to lose her, so, because I love her very much, and I know she loves me as much as I love her, so it's sort of quite a strong sister relationship.
I just would want her to be happy, I suppose. I know that sounds a bit cliched, but really that's all I want, because she is quite a happy child, and you know, that's all I would wish for her, really. I mean, I don't think massively into the future with Georgie, where Sarah I might see a hole. With Georgie I tend to take it sort of more sort of month by month, only because, you know, it's a worrying time to think of their future. So, but if I had to think, I really would like Georgie to be happy, and I'd quite like her to be able to be married maybe, and I'm sure she'd like to have a family. So loved and cared for and happy, I think I'd like to see Georgie, really.
Jennifer has got Williams syndrome. She is over-friendly. She would talk to anybody. She would stop anybody to talk to them because they can have a dog, or if a child is crying, she would just stop and keep staring. It could be she can get quite close to the people to be in kind of their space. A constant checking and looking at Jennifer, what she's doing, just to remind her what's not right, what's not, what she can do. Sometimes I feel I'm too hard, or I'm too strict. She started special school and she just went down the hill in loads of ways. Frustrating thing was that I've been told it was kind of my fault that I have been pushing Jennifer, and Jennifer is just the way she is, and then she just would not get better. But I knew this was a different approach of schools, going completely. It is just very different, and not just her behaviour changed, but in her academic level she dropped down. And because they told me, oh, she doesn't need to do anything more at home, I've stopped doing it because I believed they were giving her enough. She forgot her timetables, she forgot how to write. It was just not, there was no homework, there was no not supporting her needs, what she needed. And that's why I have asked if she can start going to mainstream as well as special school, just to try if she would cope, if she would make any progress. Special school said it's not a good idea because she's going to really struggle and she's not going to be able to do anything, any cope, it just would not be coping. But being there not even a year, she has progressed in maths, she has progressed in science, and I'm hoping she's going to get back. I'm just very positive because she can do brilliant things, she can do fantastic things if she's directed the right way. But I suppose it's the confusion why she has to do sometimes hard work, why she doesn't have to do sometimes. But she can do fantastic things. It's you just don't think she has got any problems. I am thinking about the future all the time, but it's like I'm trying to fight. I need to take every day as it comes, and I am. Every day I'm taking it as it comes. I can't say this is the future going to be because I'm doing this now. You just don't know. I'm hoping she's going to be able to be in a place where she will be happy and will be able to find what she needs and what she wants. And that's what I'm trying to do now, just to give her the best what I can. Because she's an amazing girl. I hope she's going to be okay. I don't know, I don't know, I hope I'm not kidding myself, but I'm hoping she's going to be okay.
Toby is coming up 13. He is diagnosed with autistic spectrum disorder / Asperger's, if you want it correct. And we had him diagnosed about 3 or 4. It was nursery who first came to the conclusion that there was something a little bit wrong. So I went away and read up on it, and at that time, sort of nearly 10 years ago, there was not a lot of information around. You can't spontaneously do anything. A day trip has got to be planned like military manoeuvres, really, of what you take, where you go, what you say, and it's constant. And you can hear my voice now, I'm hoarse always by the end of the day, because it's sort of like mummy, mummy, and I have to say, right, we're going to be doing this, and then we're going here, and yeah. And the worst time, I think, which was my lowest point, was being asked to leave Tesco's, really, in Midsummer Norton, because we'd gone in, I had his baby sister in the trolley, and we went in, and he could go in any Tesco's in the Western world apart from ours. And he got to the door, and it was almost like cartoon comedy breaks went on, and then he just started screaming, and not just like ah, sort of like child in pain. It was just a constant ah, 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 and it got louder and louder and louder as we walked around the store. And it was quite obvious that the rest of the store was getting quieter and quieter and quieter listening to this child. And I had in my hand what I wanted to buy, and eventually I was approached by the manager, who fortunately was a very understanding female, who said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I just want to buy this." And she said, "Just have it and go. Just have it and go." And I always say that's the day I wish I had 2 litres of vodka in each hand and sort of 400 Benson Hedges under my arms, and she would say, "Have it and go." But no. And that was the worst time. And I remember leaving the store sobbing, and came home and didn't go out for a good couple of years after that. Eventually he grew out of that once he changed from mainstream to a special school, when he went to Fossway School, and he knew instinctively that it was the right place for him. He'd done okay in mainstream school, but he couldn't cope with the other children in the class. He'd spend his days sat under a table. Playground, he'd have his coat over his head, it was too big, or running around the perimeter. And he had to come out of school separately, couldn't cope with coming out. So I had to go through to reception to pick him up, where he'd come out, throw his bag at me, spit in my face, because just the anxiety of the whole day was just too much. Always used to take that time, whereas now, as long as it's all narrated, I can say, you know, we're going here and you'll be doing this and this is what you'll see, and you show him a picture beforehand. He's much better. He's like, okay, if he doesn't want to go, he will go, which he never used to, but he'll spend the whole time making it miserable for everybody else. What time are we leaving? I didn't want to come here. Why did you make me come here? And you'll find his sister has no free thought of her own, because she knows if she chooses somewhere he doesn't want to go, it will just be miserable, and we should have gone somewhere that he wanted to go. And we've got a handful of places we call Toby's happy places, so we know that that's when, you know, that's going to be a good day if we go there. When he was 7 or 8, we saw a turning point, and again with changing schools, his whole attitude, I think he became much calmer and accepting of it then. And of course with him in school full time and his sister by that time, I had a little bit of a life back. So even now, I know from 3 o'clock onwards, I'm not really going out or doing anything. I can't say to the children, right, we need to pop here or go and visit so-and-so. That's like, no, school's finished, it's home now. And that's it. Katie absolutely loves him to pieces, and the problem Katie has is because she's almost like an only child, because Toby's very independent, does his own thing, and she has to find her own way. The attention she craves from Toby is kind of misplaced. She'll join in with his stuff, which doesn't do her any favours.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Katie Grady, and her big brother called Toby, who looked after Katie. Once, Katie had to go to bed because she was not well. Toby brought in some yummy things for her, and they went cloud hopping. "Wait for me," said Toby. "Let's see if we can get that butterfly." And me and Toby slid down the rainbow. Whee! We all went.
I notice when they go to a new play scheme that maybe he's not been to before, she'll say, oh, come on, I'll look after you, it's fine. And she'll take that role. And the sad fact is that as I get older, or if I'm not here anymore, it is Katie that is going to have to pick up the baton really and run with it. She absolutely adores him, whereas by rights she should be totally resentful. And I'd like him to have some sort of independent living. I'm not naive enough to think he will ever be able to live on his own. He's always going to have some kind of care, whether it's, you know, we move house, turn the garage into his own little annex, or whether he is in wardened accommodation. He will always need some kind of care. But if he can have virtually independent life on the back of that, then that would be fantastic. And somebody once said to me, and they're so right, if you have a disabled child, you have a disabled family, because it affects all of you. You'll never find a parent of particularly an autistic child, let alone any sort of disabled child, who is a wallflower, because they have always had to push and be out there. They cannot just stand in the background, because if they do, they know their child will just stand in the background with them, and that can't happen for children like ours.